People often ask me what the best car I've ever driven is, and it's a nearly impossible question to answer because I've been so lucky over the years to drive so many incredible cars, and picking just one of them is quite hard to do. But the answer I give most often is the GTO Engineering 250 short wheelbase Revival. This car made me cry on camera. I think my love of Ferrari has been fairly well documented on this channel, but it's often rooted in the cars from the Schumacher de Montezemolo era, the late 90s and early noughties. But I also adore early Ferraris, cars from the 50s and the 60s. But they're rare, and for as long as I've been doing this job, they've been insanely valuable. So owners have been quite reluctant to just throw the keys to a dodgy YouTuber like me. Whilst I'd never actually driven one, I always proclaimed that a 250 short wheelbase was my Euro Millions car. If I was to suddenly win the lottery, it's the first thing I'd go and buy. So when GTO Engineering threw me the keys to one of theirs, well, expectations were already pretty high, and the car exceeded them. It blew my mind, and yes, made me rather emotional. So at the end of last year, as I celebrated 10 years of Seen Through Glass, I got back in touch with GTO Engineering and said, look, your car really had an impact on me, and over the 10 years, it's the one that stands out the most. So could I come back and revisit it, have another go? I said, yeah, of course, we'd love to have you back, but let's wait, because we were headed into the British winter, which is a dodgy time to take out a car like this. We both agreed we'll wait until the sun comes back out. Well, as you can see, it's a sunny day, and I'm back down at GTO Engineering to cry on camera once again. If you don't know anything about GTO Engineering, they've been going since the early 1980s and are renowned for servicing, restoring and maintaining Ferraris from the 50s and 70s. Ferrari themselves might not let me saying it, but I actually think GTO Engineering are more qualified and specialists than even Ferrari's own Classic A department. GTO Engineering have restored, raced, serviced and supported 25 of the 36 original 250 GTOs, 21 of the 77 original 250 Tour de France's, over half of the 167 original 250 short wheelbases, and over 150 275 GTBs. By doing all this work, they built up such an incredible amount of expertise and know-how, they realized they could build any of these cars from scratch. Heck, these days they even make parts for these cars that Ferrari themselves no longer make. And they have a detailed manual of how to build a 250 engine step by step. So that's where the Revival program came from. They could take a less highly regarded Ferrari from the 50s and 70s period and rebuild it piece by piece as a 250 short wheelbase or a 250 GT Cal Spyder, exactly as it was done back in period, because they knew exactly how it was done back in period. So long story short, for me, a Ferrari nerd, visiting this place is almost as good as visiting the Ferrari Classic A department in Maranello. And you could say that the team working on the cars here have more knowledge and expertise than some of those working at the Ferrari factory. So it is a mecca in its own kind and truly special, especially to visit some of the rooms I wasn't allowed to film in. So if you get the chance, go check out GTO Engineering. Revisiting a 250 short wheelbase Revival today would not have been disappointing, but we've leveled up because, yeah, well, I guess you would have already seen it in the title, but you now join me inside a 250 GT California Spyder Revival. This is quite the moment. I feel like I should put this hat on because it is sunny. I think I'm going to get burned. Where do I begin? 250 California Spyder, a car that never really was meant to exist. US importers of Ferrari back in the 1950s put pressure on Enzo Ferrari to build a sporty convertible, something Enzo didn't feel the need to create. He thought you would have a convertible to cruise in and a coupe to go racing in. But no, the US team were like, there's demand over here, especially in California. So eventually he succumbed, and they built the first 250 Cal Spyder off a 250 Tour de France. It had a slightly longer wheelbase, and then this variant, the shorter wheelbase, off the 250 short wheelbase. So it's a convertible 250 short wheelbase. It's sporty, it's racy, it's supposedly all the goodness. I feel like the Cal Spyder is most famous because it was featured in the film Ferris Bueller. Funnily enough, Lewis Hamilton has kind of recreated the scene, or one of the most iconic scenes from Ferris Bueller, because apparently he's bought the 250 Cal Spyder from that film. but I'm now getting caught up in the details. I think the Cal Spyders used in Ferris Bueller were like rebodied Mustangs. This is not a rebodied Mustang. This is essentially a tool room copy of a California Spyder. Only the nerdiest of nerds will be able to tell you the differences, because there aren't really any. I think this particular car started its life as a 250 GTE back in the day. It was totally stripped down, and then yes, because GTO Engineering have spent decades restoring and working on original cars, they just have all the components. They knew how to build the parts to make this into a California Spyder. One with a slightly juicier engine. This does have a 3.5 litre V12, not the standard 3 litre that came in the cars back in the 60s. But that's about it. I mean, it even smells like an old Ferrari. And like all other old Ferraris, I don't really fit. It's all a bit awkward in here. I'm wearing silly trainers. Maybe I should take those off. But anyway, my foot is like at a 90-degree angle to be able to access the throttle, because the pedal box is quite tight together. And then my knee is banging against the steering wheel. It's uncomfortable, and that's a little bit nerve-wracking because, well, this is what's weird about this car. I mean, firstly, these cars, super valuable. They don't actually make them anymore, just like with the short wheelbases. These are out of production with GTO Engineering, but I think value-wise, we're probably looking at like 1.2, 1.3 mil. The original cars from the 60s, 15 odd mil. And because this does feel and look and taste like an original car, I feel like I'm sitting in a 15 million pound Ferrari. So the thought of driving this down the road with this awkward pedal box, I'm a little bit nervous. Visibility and everything's great, the car's tiny, but this is a bit, wish me luck, people. But yeah, I could just sit here. I don't actually need to go anywhere. It's such a beautiful day. I'm looking down at an old classic Ferrari steering wheel, which is very large. I'm nervous, but I'm really quite nervous. And also look at that thing. I have to say, personally, I still prefer the looks of the short wheelbase coupe, but this has its own vibe, and having just come back from LA and it being all sunny, I need to experience it. I need to experience it. So, word on the street is turn the key all the way around, 3 pumps of gas, clutch in, and then push with a little bit of gas. I don't think I did that very smoothly, but the car is on, so who cares? Right, let's hit the road. A 250 California Spyder. Well, I've got to be honest, it's been a slightly stressful start to this test drive. My plan today is obviously to go and get a coffee in this car, because, you know, this is seen through glass. I'm driving a Ferrari. It feels only appropriate that I take this, well, slightly priceless 250 California Spyder to get a cappuccino. So I'm going to be following Laurie from GTO Engineering. He's taking me to a nice romantic spot. He's a little bit ahead of me in a GTC4 Lusso. But apparently the place we're going to get coffee doesn't serve food. He goes, oh, I want to pick up some sandwiches, so at least we can eat something as well. So he took me into the centre of Henley-on-Thames, right in the middle of the lunch rush hour. And yeah, it's put my clutch control under test. And I've been staring at the temperatures for the last 10 minutes, because we literally were moving at like 10 miles an hour. It's just full on, really full on. Loads of people looking, and I was like, oh my God. But we have succeeded in our mission. I have survived, as has the car, even though the temperatures are pretty high. And we're now heading for the open road. So, very initial impressions from GTO Engineering into horrific traffic, and now to this point here. Well, I mean, it's glorious. Surprisingly, well, no, not surprisingly, it's so urgent, this thing. Literally, from the minute I pulled out of the gates of GTO Engineering, the throttle pedal just wants to be hammered. Like, it is so ready to pick up speed. And of course, a big part of that is the lightness. This thing must weigh 1,000 kilos, and it's a 3.5 litre V12 up front. Again, clutch control is imperative. It's got quite a springy clutch. Interesting thing about, well, old cars in general, but especially old Italian cars and old Ferraris, you think you've got to be a little bit light-footed, light-handed with them. You know, of course, the value weighs on your mind. Kind of take things carefully, but they respond best when you kind of grab them by the scruff of their neck and crack on. They kind of want to be pushed on, so you have to remind yourself to not actually be that gentle with them. But here we go. I mean, look at this. What a sensational moment. Driving a 1960s roof down 250. I mean, wow, the feels, all of the feels. This car, owned by many celebrities over the years. I guess James Coburn, he was in The Great Escape, many other Hollywood films, big Hollywood actor, most famously owned one of these cars. And I think it was his car that Chris Evans bought back in 2008 for like £5 million. That made big headline news around the world. But Bridget Bardot, loads of people that you would have heard of. And so it's got that kind of Hollywood cool about it. And it feels right and good to just do this, cruise, one hand on the steering wheel taking the sights, but because this car is based on the short wheelbase version, not the Tour de France variant, and it's got some GTO Engineering Revival specialness, in third gear at 3,500 RPM, it can do this. I'm not even going to rev it out that hard because the temperatures are still a little bit high, but... And it feels amazingly planted even at these speeds. Okay, the steering is a little loose. You've got to remember it's old brakes, but it sits so solidly. It's not wavering all over the road. Is that an indicator? It's the first time I've used one, if it is. A bit too high on the revs there. It revs pretty freely, I've got to be honest. When we did the first cold start this morning, I kind of hammered the throttle a bit too hard and gave it like full beans on startup, which probably wasn't ideal, but the team at GTO Engineering were nice and were like, don't worry, it happens all the time. It's so easy to drive. I cannot believe how easy it is to drive and just how soul fulfilling it is to drive. I can't stop smiling. Even when I was in town sweating through the traffic, I was like, I've spoken about it so many times before. Cars from this era just connect to my core. Some parts of me think I should have been born in the 60s, or not born, at least alive in the 60s. I feel such a connection. Oh, that sound. Okay, so this is a lot less intimidating and raw than the short wheelbase Revival I drove however many years ago. That thing was surprising in how animalistic it was. I always thought it was going to be an old cruiser, and it wasn't. It was ready to rock and roll. This thing does feel happier just working its way through the gears. It was called the California Spyder because they really thought it was going to exclusively be sold to Californians. That was the point of it, to take advantage of weather like this, but still have the Ferrari characteristics that people wanted. Haven't quite got that whole rev matching sorted out yet. I have taken off my shoes, by the way. Maybe you've noticed that from some of the shots, and I'm glad I did that. It's way more controllable. A nice last minute stop at the red light there from Laurie. I had to stamp on the brakes. They are pretty responsive. But yeah, I mean, it's just the wooden steering wheel, the leather, the gear knob and movement is spectacular. Some things are offset. My pedals are directly where I want them to be, but the steering wheel is slightly to the right, and I feel, if anything, angled slightly inwards. But it's so easy to drive in place. Don't forget, I'm in a left-hand drive car in a right-hand drive country, but it hasn't really dawned on me because it's tightly wrapped alongside me. However, I think if I had a passenger, I would feel nicely far away from them. It doesn't feel cramped in any way, apart from, yes, my feet and legs. Moments like this, just thank all of you, or thanks to all of you, for allowing me to get the opportunity to do something like this. I really want to put on some Italian opera or something epic. Right, here we go. The open road in the California Spyder. Whoa! Bit of a bump on the brakes. Oh, this is glorious. This is sensational. It's also so intense. I've got the wind buffeting me from every side, but I cannot get over how planted this car feels. I've got actual confidence in steering and brakes. It definitely weirdly doesn't feel as fast as the short wheelbase, but maybe that was just the intensity of that car. Oh, God, it is so cool. I immediately want to enter some kind of road rally. That noise! But I can understand why people in California wanted this car back in the day. Oh, there's a very silly pheasant. What a silly horn. Oh. What a thing! What a thing! It's so pleasant. Like, everything is smooth and delivered in such a sort of progressive way. It's such a different experience to many other Ferraris that I have now gone on to experience from this period. That burble though. It's funny when you try and look back at some of these manufacturers and look at their history. You know, the 911, whilst it has grown and changed over the years, you can drive one from the 70s and drive one from last year, and there is a connection. And there is something about these Ferraris, which again, they've changed so much, but there's a soul and there's a drivability which they have managed to continue throughout the years. That Lusso in front, such a different thing to this California Spyder, but the handling, the way it sits on the road, and the way it enlightens your soul and can make you smile is just, oh. I want to be rich. I want to be really rich and have a huge mansion and own one of these cars and poodle around, take it for coffee. So this is the winery at 100 Hills, our kind of coffee stop / lunch stop, and pretty much the end of my experience in this car. I do get to drive it back to GTO Engineering, but we're going to be doing some filming that I guess you would have already seen, so I'm not going to be talking to the camera. I did just check back some of the GoPro footage I filmed during that segment. It was a little bit wobbly, so apologies for that, but I guess that's what happens when you try to film a 1960s Ferrari going fast. It all just... Anyway, I'm not going to make excuses. Who cares? I've just driven a 250 Cal Spyder Revival. I think the thing which has blown me away is firstly how different the two experiences have been, even though the California Spyder is essentially based on a 250 short wheelbase. Yeah, very different kind of characteristics, but it is just a reminder or a flag waver at the incredible work that GTO Engineering did with these revivals, because it's just... it's a jaw-dropping and mind-blowing experience at a more accessible price point than the original cars, and I think that's so key because well, it just opens them up to a whole different kind of person, a different kind of market. I think, you know, these are experiences that us car people need to somehow try and have if we can, because I think they're mind-altering experiences. This is a bit, I mean, it's a bit peak for me, isn't it? Where do I go from here? What a lifetime experience. Look at this weather, look at this location, look at this car. It all just goes downhill from here. Everything's going to be crap now, isn't it? I do still think that I would personally have the short wheelbase, the Berlinetta, over this, but on a day like today, it's really hard to beat. Okay, so now this is when I'm going to cry, because I realise that, yeah, life is over. It's just crap after this. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Huge thanks to GTO Engineering for letting me have another go in one of their cars. And stay subscribed. Plenty more videos to come.